Here is a faithful cinematic English translation, keeping the documentary tone, rhythm, and emotional weight of the original. In the primordial era of Earth, when the continents were still young and the sky had not yet been clouded by the smoke of civilization, a colossal river wound its way through an untamed land. It would come to be known as the Mother River. No one knows how long this river has flowed, only that it was so vast that the opposite bank appeared hazy, like a veil of mist. Its waters carried silt, minerals, and life itself, pouring into a warm, shallow sea, where freshwater and saltwater intertwined, creating one of the richest ecosystems of the ancient world. At this crossroads, life did not merely exist, it competed. Beneath the amber-colored surface, a massive shadow glided silently. It was the fire dragon knifefish, an ancient predatory fish with a long, flattened body, armored in thick, iron-like scales. Along its spine ran sharp ridges that caught the faint light filtering through the water. Its teeth were not long, but immensely powerful, designed to crush, not to tear. Among the fire dragon knifefish that inhabited the river mouth, one individual stood above all others. Others called it by a single name, the Unconquered One. Not because it had never been wounded, but because it had never been defeated. The realm the Unconquered One ruled was not limited to the surface. Beneath the shallow sea, fresh water from the Mother River continued to flow like an underground river, weaving beneath the salt water. This current carried nutrients, drawing schools of small fish, crustaceans, and countless microscopic organisms. Where there is food, there are predators, and where there are predators, there is war. The Unconquered One patrolled its territory every day, sensing every vibration in the water, every subtle movement. Any predatory fish that strayed into this domain understood one thing immediately: either retreat or die. And fish were not the only threat. Primitive aquatic reptiles, long-bodied, sharp-snouted, frequently emerged from the marshes near the river mouth. Agile and aggressive, they attacked whenever opportunity arose. Once a large reptile dared to charge into the Unconquered One's territory. The water exploded. The collision sent the river into a violent churn. Armored scales slammed against razor teeth. The two creatures twisted together in the swirling current. But the Unconquered One was stronger. A decisive sweep of its tail, a crushing bite. The intruder vanished, leaving behind a faint red trail drifting along the underground current. The territory remained under the Unconquered One's control, but nature never stands still. Over time, the Unconquered One began to sense something was wrong. The freshwater current, once powerful, was weakening. The taste of salt grew stronger, and then they appeared. Primitive sharks. At first, they were only young, smaller individuals, daring to swim deeper into the river mouth. They came from the open sea, a realm the Unconquered One had never entered. They did not stay long, but their presence was a warning. The dry season did not arrive suddenly. It crept in slowly, like a whisper, then rose into a roar. The river's water level fell. Once deep channels became shallow. The underground river weakened, no longer strong enough to push back the salt water. Prey became scarce. Schools of small fish disappeared. Predators crowded into the remaining pools. Tension filled the water. Now the Unconquered One was fighting not just to defend its territory, but to survive. Younger fire dragon knifefish, desperate and starving, began to challenge him. Larger reptiles from the land pushed down into the shrinking waters. Even above the surface, land predators lurked, waiting for a single moment of weakness. Each wound the unconquered one suffered cut deeper than the last, yet it lived. Then one day, the water receded so far that the unconquered one no longer recognized its own domain. What had once been a fertile hunting ground was now nothing but mud and stone. Ancient instincts stirred. There were two paths. Follow the retreating freshwater upstream into narrow spaces with little food but familiar territory. Or venture into the open sea, vast, alien, and filled with colossal predators. There was no safe choice, only a choice, less likely to lead to death. The unconquered one abandoned its territory. It moved through shallow waters where its heavy body made it vulnerable. Many times it nearly became prey to land-based hunters. But the water grew saltier. Waves began to form. The ocean revealed itself. The sea was nothing like the river. Stronger currents, endless open space, faster prey, and predators far larger. The unconquered one had to relearn everything. How to stalk within ocean currents, how to conserve energy, how to avoid the massive shadows passing beneath. It was wounded, it was starving, but it adapted. After many exhausting days, the unconquered one found a region where ocean currents carried dense schools of fish, no longer the absolute ruler, but still alive. And in the primordial world, survival itself is victory. As the sun sank below the ocean horizon, the silhouette of the unconquered one merged with the deep blue water. It was no longer the ruler of the Mother River, but it stood as proof of an ancient truth. Life does not survive because it is the strongest, but because it can adapt. Somewhere else, another river still flows. And in its murky waters, a new generation of fire dragon knifefish is growing. The struggle for survival has never ended. If you want, I can. Adapt this into BBC, Netflix-style narration, shorten it for YouTube documentary voiceover, rewrite it for children-friendly storytelling, convert it into scene-by-scene cinematic script. Just tell me.